In the Dragon Ball franchise, our main character of Son Goku has encountered many threats and foes who have driven him to the very brink, improving him as a warrior and as a martial artist. However, there was one threat that in many ways stands above all others as a foe that Goku simply could not defeat, and allowed his son instead to take his place and defeat this villain for him. His name is Cell, and many fans since this fight have been wondering if Goku really could have overcome Cell in their fight if the fight had continued. Well, today Dragon Ball Nation and I are going to break down that question of could Goku have defeated Cell in Dragon Ball Z. Make sure to subscribe to this channel and enable notifications so you can see all of my content right away when it comes out. Alright guys, so today we are breaking down that question of could Goku have defeated Cell in Dragon Ball Z? And Josh from Dragon Ball Nation, Goku is your favorite character, is he not?
Is Cell my favorite villain as well?
Yeah, as well as mine. So this is a very interesting discussion. However, I feel like maybe it is a little bit more cut and dry than some people make it out to be, and I think maybe a lot of misconceptions do lend to the idea that perhaps Goku really could have beaten Cell at any moment. You know, the whole thing about how Goku secretly learned Super Saiyan 3 and Fusion on Yardrat, where he learned the instant transmission, but that's a story for another day. However, we're going to break this down by different points that Goku could have possibly defeated Cell and what methods he could have used. And Josh, let's first start off with your overall thoughts on whether or not you think Goku really would come out victorious, and then we'll start off with the first point.
Well, when you look at it two different ways, whether he could have done it by following the rules or by his pure strength by completely eliminating Cell, which obviously by the end of the fight with Cell when Gohan was fighting him and Cell had self-destructed, we know that Cell's regeneration was far surpassed what we had anticipated it to be, even when obviously Goku did the instant transmission Kamehameha. I just can't see any way that Goku, even if he was close to strength with Cell, I don't know if he really could have completely annihilated him, but even so, Goku's far weaker than Cell than some people might think.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we get into the whole power thing, let's first start off with the idea of Goku versus Cell continuing in the ring, continuing within the confines of the rules, because, of course, during Goku and Cell's fight, Cell blasted the ring, eliminating it, and essentially said the planet would be their ring, and it became more of a fight to the death at that point. Now, Josh, do you think that there's any possibility that Goku could have somehow eliminated Cell, say, through a ring out, or through any other means if they stayed within the rules, or do you still think it would be more of a one-sided fight for Cell?
It's really interesting to think about it, because if he had just kept going at the same speed, like if Cell was just doing the same power output that whole time, it would have been a closer fight in the sense that Goku would have had more opportunities to ring out Cell with things like instant transmission and such. Maybe caught him off guard with a solar flare, which is something Cell obviously has as well. They both have good techniques, but the one advantage Goku really had was instant transmission. But after that first time where Goku almost knocks him out, I'm pretty sure Cell's guard probably got up way more, and obviously then he does obviously go on to destroy the ring. But I feel like maybe Cell was underestimating Goku before then in terms of his tactics, I suppose I should say. But I don't know if I feel like he could have gotten Cell knocked out of the ring. And even if he did, in reality, if Cell hadn't blown up the ring, he probably would have just said, screw this, it's not the same rules anymore, and the planet's still gonna die unless you can defeat me.
I feel like Goku probably wouldn't have really liked to settle for a ring out either. When you think about it, like, both of them really wanted to go as hard as they possibly could, or at least, you know, in Cell's case, he wanted to see how much Goku could go and how much of a challenge he really could be, because, you know, again, as we'll get into, there really was a big difference in their powers, and the only way I could see Goku, say, defeating Cell within the confines of the rules would be through a ring out, as you said, and the only way I could see that happening is maybe he does something like he did to Pikkon in their fight, where he takes advantage advantage of Cell being caught off guard or using a move, and then uses the instant transmission, teleports next to him, and then blasts him out of the ring with a Kamehameha. Or if he blasts off the top part of Cell's body, well, if his legs fall out, that's probably still a ring out. So ultimately, I feel like the rules are still going to be disregarded, like you said, though. So getting into the rules being disregarded, what do you think there? Like, do you think Goku, with all of his various techniques, do you think with all of his various strategies and just his overall willpower he's known for, could have in some way overcome Cell? Or do you think it just was kind of doomed to begin with?
If I want to stick to canon here and not, talk about filler, things like Super COULDN, which I don't even think Goku would have been able to even do right then, plus all the damaging stuff to his body. But Goku's power, like, let's say Gohan wasn't even an option, right? Let's say Gohan couldn't even go Super Saiyan 2 or Super Saiyan. Let's just say that that's off the table, right?
Yeah.
Goku has to be the one to beat Cell. No one else even has a chance. To be quite frank, Goku doesn't even have a chance unless he can do the Spirit Bomb, in my opinion. And there's no way Cell's gonna let him do a Spirit Bomb. There's just no way in hell. Goku's power is so below Cell's that I think a lot of people might not understand. I know a lot of people do understand that, but there are still those that don't quite fathom the amount of power difference. It's basically, I always like to look at it as Cell was pretty much like going maybe 50% when he was fighting Goku, somewhere around there. You can get into when Goku was comparing his power to Korin and asking what kind of chance he has against Cell. You can look at when Cell fought Gohan as a Super Saiyan 2. Cell powered up a few times as well there, and everyone was shocked, and Goku didn't even realize he had that much power hidden within him. So, it could even be a situation where Cell was actually not even using 50% against Goku, Goku was giving it his all, despite on maybe how his dialogue might have been delivered or whatever, or how you might perceive the way he said it. When he talked to Gohan and said, "I went all out," I'm pretty sure he meant it. So I just don't see a way where Goku could really put out enough force to completely eliminate Cell. Maybe if everyone jumped in against regular perfect Cell, but if you're talking about just Goku, I just don't see it being feasible, really. There's too much of a power difference, and the regeneration makes it completely unfair.
Yeah, the whole thing is that a lot of people took that conversation that Gohan had with Goku, because Gohan essentially thought that Goku was holding back the entire time during his fight with Cell, because Gohan was comparing his own power that he knew he had to Goku's, and of course he assumed, well, he's Goku, he's my father, he must be more powerful than I am. However, Gohan had more power as a Super Saiyan than Goku did as a Super Saiyan, which is why he thought that there was a difference, when in fact it just meant Gohan was stronger, and I guess he didn't even realize up until that point. But aside from that, there is always the thing of the sensu being, when it came to more of the climax of their fight, where Goku and Cell were both out of breath, where it seemed like both had kind of been worn down, because the Kamehameha against Cell, all the energy it needed for him to come back, that Cell suggested to Goku that he take a sensu bean so that they can continue their match. Do you think even after Goku took the sensu bean, he would have stood any real chance against Cell?
Cell must have said it, because Cell knew he still, even if Goku was at his max, still would have been fine. Yeah, Cell was out of breath as well, but again, it comes down to a part where he obviously hadn't unleashed all of his power yet. Whether that would have rejuvenated his strength, who knows? It could have been a little bit of bad writing too, just a bit there. But if Cell's offering him, he doesn't want a sensu bean, right? He wants Goku to take one only. So that tells me that Cell's confident that he will still beat Goku. Maybe that's overconfidence, maybe it's not. It's hard to say, but that is a very good point, Mike.
Well, one of the things they say in the anime, at least Trunks says, is that after they give Goku the sensu bean, all of them can jump in and basically team up to defeat Cell. Do you think that even though Cell was worn down against Goku a little bit, do you think that, his power would still be too much for everyone?
Right, it's one of those things where I'm not sure if he actually went all out, if it would have rejuvenated him to a point where he wouldn't be as exhausted or whatever, just based off the writing, he makes it seem like he really can go way farther than that at that point in time. And again, like later on when we see him power up against Gohan, people are shocked. Even Goku, who had fought him, is shocked that he had that much power reserved, He knew he was holding back power, but he didn't know he was holding back that much. So even if the others that are around him, think they can beat him. In reality, I just don't think that'd be possible.
Yeah, there's pretty much 3 ways I could see Goku potentially being able to defeat
We can use our
Cell.
headcanon and think of the perfect scenarios, like Goku blast him. Like after Goku ends the transmission Kamehameha him, he's on the ground, everyone dives in and does a big blast. That would work, but who would write that, right? Who would write that situation?
But there's like 3 techniques, essentially, I could see maybe being able to beat Cell. The first one would be the Super Kaioken that he used against Pikkon and Filler, which if it's only like a 2 times boost, then that would probably put him around the same level as Cell.
Somewhere near him, unless he doesn't drain his stamina quick.
Yeah, and considering that Kaioken damages your body, I feel like that probably wouldn't have been the best method to defeat Cell with it. The other one would be the Spirit Bomb, as you mentioned. However, the thing is that a lot of people forget is Cell actually either knows or knows about both of these techniques. He even says so when he's confronted by Piccolo and the other Z fighters early on as Imperfect Cell. He says he has all of their techniques and he knows how to use the Kaioken and potentially even the Spirit Bomb. Now, whether or not he could use it is something else. I believe you did a video on that, did you not?
I did a video on that, yep, I certainly did.
And, you know, that's a whole different discussion, but Cell would know the entire time Goku's trying to use that move, so I think that's pretty unlikely he'd be able to. And the final one, kind of out of left field, would have to be the Evil Containment Wave for the Mafuba. But again, nobody except for Master Roshi and Piccolo knew that, and it's unlikely that Piccolo's going to step in and use that move. Plus, Piccolo actually knew a Evil Containment Wave reversal attack back in Dragon Ball, and Cell does have the cells from Piccolo, so it's possible even if they use that move, Cell would be like, oh, reverse Evil Containment Wave and seal them up just, the same. So I feel like even in those ridiculous scenarios, it seems like Cell would still come out on top in this
Even
case.
Mike, if we're gonna let Goku use Super Kaioken against Cell, I'm gonna play devil's advocate and say, listen, it'd be hype as hell if Cell's just like, you're gonna do that, I'm gonna use Kaioken as well. He should be able to use it, so I mean, it shouldn't be a problem for him, and he's not like transformed or anything, so he wouldn't be using as much stamina.
Yeah, and the whole thing is, if Goku doesn't completely eradicate that cluster of cells in Cell's head, which, was retconned to be there after his fight, he's not going to be able to beat him.
It makes a cooler villain, I think, with that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Gohan's plot armor was so strong he literally created a weakness out of nowhere for Cell. But ultimately, I feel like Goku going into this fight really knew he was not going to win. Like, that explains his entire demeanor the entire time, why he was so, basically aloof the entire time, why he thought that he didn't really have much of a chance against Cell. Like, he showed his strength to Korin, then he shows up and looks in Cell's face, and it seems like Goku at that point knew he wasn't gonna win, and as he even says as Gohan is fighting, he basically showed Gohan how Cell fights by fighting him himself, so that Gohan would have an even greater advantage against Cell. So I feel like Goku's fight against Cell is kind of a formality. Even though it's an epic fight, even though it's something that seemed like it was gonna be climactic, it really wasn't gonna be the real climax from the very beginning, and it served more to help Gohan.
Although it was better than the climax.
Depending upon your point of view, sure.
I do want to add, when Goku powered up with Korin, I mean, he said it doesn't look like Goku would have much of a chance. I mean, think about how much power do you think Korin could have sensed? Do you think he really sensed everything Cell had in him?
I doubt it, but I think Korin is always being looked at as this kind of like Yoda type character where he just knows what's going on inside somebody. And the whole thing is like, he must have sensed Cell when he was fighting against Trunks, and he knew Cell still had the advantage, so maybe he was just like, oh, Cell probably has even more than that.
Well, Mike, what I was thinking was, at least at a writing standpoint, because sometimes we talk about Dragon Ball, you can't think about maybe the last time someone was seen fighting. Yeah, think of maybe what the writers are thinking. Of course, I don't know what they were thinking all the time, but I'd like to think that when that scene was being written, I'd like to imagine that that's probably Korin sensing the power of Cell when he's gonna fight Goku, or whenever Cell's showing his power next. But I mean, who knows? It's really hard to say. It's ambiguous, so. But it is another point to show, like, there is a huge power difference with Goku and Cell. It's pretty massive. It's just hard to pinpoint where it is. But I would say it's around 50% or less that Cell was going out against Goku.
And that seems to be a big recurring number in the Cell arc as well, because Goku shows 50% of his power. Vegeta and Trunks are weaker than that. Goku goes full power, but he's still weaker than Cell's full power, and then Cell powers up and everyone's shocked. So I feel like that's a pretty good range to kind of put it in, and ultimately I feel like we both agree, even though Goku did put up an awesome fight against Cell, in the end he didn't really stand much of a chance, and if Cell went full power, it's kind of like a Frieza situation where he just would have been able to crush Goku if he really tried.
Right, I agree.
So let us know your own thoughts down below in the comments section, and of course check out Dragon Ball Nation in the end card and the description, and as I always say, stick around, because there's a lot more to come in the future.
And you better subscribe!
Go do it now, what are you waiting for? Enable those notifications, wow!